Hello, fellow YouTubers. Amy's Bro here, and this is the response video to being tagged by 335, hence the opening. Alright, here's the video. I was tagged by 335 with 2 questions. Now, the questions seem simple, but for someone like me, they're not. And I'll explain why. The questions are about E3. E3 is like the event of all events for video game companies. To basically show off their right? But my problem when it comes to E3, especially the 2 questions, is, okay, you're asking me about Sony, you're asking me about Microsoft, you're asking me about Nintendo, and you're asking me what games I would want to see announced. Alright, let me try this one for you, kids. I'm so out of whack with where the gaming industry is right now that I'm more in tune with, say, the J-pop realm, or the Japanese music scene at this point. If you want a real good indication of that, wait until this Sunday when J Mello comes on. But here, let me try and just generalize this for you on the tag. What I would want to see, maybe, I'm going to use this term, and it's going to make trouble flip out. I know it is. I want to hear that Nintendo's growing up with at least one of their franchises. Now, this does not mean there has to be ass and titties all over the place. But what it does mean is, let's make the game a little bit more accessible for an older audience. Because, like it or not, there are that audience of, there's that group of gamers that go, well, fuck, I'm not going to play a Nintendo game because most of their games are geared towards kids. I mean, their main game right now that has a T rating, they had like, what, 2? And I'm not counting, by the way, I am not going to count Dragon Quest VI Realms of Reverie, because that was actually made by Square Enix. I'm talking about a game that's Nintendo made. The one game that they've actually done, or the 2 games they've actually done this with, or allowed it to happen with, were Zelda and Metroid, which is cool. It's a step in the right direction, because honestly, those franchises, I think, need a little kick in the pants, need a little spice. That's just my opinion. Don't go jumping down my throat. Sony has the issue of course, the hacking, and with the news that there might be another one coming up in the future this weekend, they really better start chewing on their nails. Really. I ain't got none left, or I chew for you. And Microsoft, well, unfortunately, I haven't owned a 360 since my last one went to pot on me. And Microsoft was less than helpful on it. So, this doesn't mean I wouldn't consider buying another 360 though, although I hear even the new Slim models have a pretty nasty failure rate, just not as bad as the old ones. But what I personally like to see done with this, I would like to see if I was going to get, say, the new Nintendo system, whatever they're going to call it, I would like to see a new F-Zero game. That would get me to buy it. I would like to see maybe a Kid Icarus. Compile's around still, so what I would do is this. Now this one's going to kick you in the pants. Just trust me on this. You have to go back in your gaming history and trouble you being a man, and there's being people with wealth of knowledge in the video game industry should know about this game, but you don't. The Guardian Legend. I would love to see, since Compile is still around technically. Remember, they helped make Hyperdimension. I would love to see an up-res version of the Guardian Legend. I would love to see that. That would get me to plunk down the money on the new that game alone. What I don't want to see happen is what ended up happening with the last Wii system that I had. With the last Nintendo system, which was the Wii. Yes, I actually did own one. And people say, well, why do you talk about it? I don't talk about Nintendo. But my problem was they didn't have a library of games that, okay, they had Super Mario Galaxy. But it was the same stuff. It was 120 stars, go save the princess, yawn. Zelda's the only game, to me, outside of Metroid, that reinvented itself a little bit. Now, am I saying that Mario's got to be, fucking Duke Nukem? No! You know, one other thing I want to hear about? The Duke Nukem game finally being released. Yeah, please, don't screw with us anymore. For those of us that actually want to see a Duke Nukem game. Well, you know one thing I would love to hear from the game industry as a whole? That these Game of the Year bullshit editions that people are just in and out. You know what I want to hear from them? Oh, those are going to be now $30 off, $29.99, just as if it was a greatest hits game. Because it always blows my mind that the industry can justify having a greatest hits game be $30, but a great Game of the Year edition can still be full price. What? Economically, I don't get it. You know, if I was Microsoft, I don't know if... obviously they don't have a complete lockdown on the Dead or Alive franchise. I would seriously... because I'll tell you right now, if Sony were to get that franchise... because remember, Sony had the first Dead or Alive, and they had Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore on their PS2, on their PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. If they were to get that franchise, and considering that franchise actually one of the top 3 I would consider, obviously Street Fighter and Tekken being 1 and 2, yeah, for those of you wondering why I don't... Soul Calibur's good, but it's just not my top 3. I'm sorry, kids. Hell, if Sony was smart, you lock down Soul Calibur, you lock down Dead or Alive, you lock down a bunch of franchises, a bunch of third parties. Really get some people in a bind. But like I said, it was hard. It's hard to do this tag because, like I've said, I am not the biggest gaming person out there. I leave that stuff to people like Pete Dorr, Happy Console Gamer, Gamester 81. You know, I don't want to use the term gaming nerds, but I use because I'm an anime nerd, but I leave it to the people that are so entrenched in the industry to speculate what's going to be good, what's going to be bad. Because the problem is, when you look at But when you look at a E3, yeah, some of these games can look promising, but in reality, are they really? I mean, you know that we all know the train wreck that Final Fantasy XIV was, and Final Fantasy XIII was at best. Now, Final Fantasy 13-2 might actually be something which is the only reason I might consider buying that train wreck of 13 again. But, you know, if I'm looking forward to any games, I'm not just talking E3, I'm talking beyond. I got Catherine, I got the Eco Trilogy. You know, I got Argus War coming out. My issue with these particular events is this, right? It's all about the major franchise or the major game companies, which is fine. But when you look at some of these smaller titles which don't get any pub, it makes me honestly feel bad for these companies that basically get pissed on shit on by, you know, the magazines. And they do. Let me ask everybody a dumb question. Seriously. Right? Okay. Now let's look like some of the past E3s right quick. Did this game ever get any pub? What about this one? Or this one? It's the problem of too many AAA titles to battle it out, and then the smaller guy basically gets the shit kicked out of him. And the problem is when all you have is all these mega titles coming out and swallowing up all the money, you end up with what could be a video game crash. Again. And not because there are too many bad games on the market, because there are too many good games and nobody knows what the fuck they're buying. Boy, isn't that a way to sabotage an E3 tag? Anyway, sorry about that, my friend, but I try my best to help you. Oh, and by the way, for anybody wondering what I'm wearing here, number 34, Mr. Walter Payton. You have a good night.